We are live. This is the market update. Let me give you the good news. You need good news. Let me give you the good news. There is no more Bitcoin. Bitcoin is leaving the building. Corporations are hoovering it up. Most likely some sovereign like China is the seller. That eventually ends. So a Bitcoin supply shock is coming. Now, the other thing you need to say, Solana. Now, Solana kind of topped out and is correcting a little bit. And you're like, Bill, why is that good? Because they're going to get the correction out of the way. Now, XRP has not corrected. If anything, XRP is just starting its little uptrend. Now, in both cases, because XRP is not rampaging to the upside and Solana is correcting, guess what? You have time. You have some time to get in. Now, in terms of viewership, obviously, when the market is going like this, everyone's pouring in, of course, right? Now, but when the market comes down, people get a little less interested. I'm going to convince you otherwise. We're going to go over the news. We're going to talk privacy. We're going to talk about the bond market because that's very important, right? Everybody is all excited that Bitcoin is holding because bonds are falling apart. I'm like, maybe we should talk about that. In any case, we're going to get the correction out of the way. We're going to go over this massive news flow that's giga bullish. And then we're going to go over the charts. We're going to go over how tactically to handle this. Let's welcome who's here. Bull Runner and Eagle King welcoming the Spartans of Patreon and the Antivirus Samurai. Along with the YouTube member, we have decided that they are the ninjas. Right? Like those tarot cards going out like throwing stars with Miss Toby absolutely rocking the AMA. Like yesterday was market overview, small coins, live picks, and like AMA. It's like, psh. Don't forget, Patreon has a new $88 tier. We'll talk about that later. Troy, today's Tech Bites. I'm not Bruce or Cliff. Ready. DC Precise, what's up? Daniel J, Grandpa Keeter, the man with the legendary super chat. Don't forget about that Bitcoin conference. Don't forget about that. There was no reason to go at 77K, and I bet there's a big announcement in 10 days. James Bond, future is so bright, you're wearing shades. No, actually what this is there to protect me from the light that lights up the stream. So it's like I'm going like, I don't know, I'm not going blind, but it's like, wait a minute. We need to get some Dave Asprey orange glasses. So it's actually like, you know you're old when you have to wear glasses over your glasses. But thank you for noticing. The Fuzz Crypto, right? Nailing it on the way up. Long. T-Bone in the house. God, these crypto stocks. T-Bone is into that. T-Bone, a member for 6 months. We thank you. Wrong again. Bitcoin dominance down. Stablecoin dominance down. Others, meaning altcoin market cap, outside the top 10, up. Listen, like I said, when the market is down, that is when you lock in. That's like the new phrase. There's hire and lock in. Lock in when it's down. Lock in. Like that's when you get more news, more charts. Lock in. Okay, so you were told the world was ending, right? Hedge funds, investment banks, the world is ending. Well, guess what? It didn't end. They got short and now they have to cover. They got long gold because the world was ending. They bought, they bought all these negative derivative products. This is how short they were. Not since cough, cold, and flu were they that short. They all have to cover. I don't think it's over. I think they're still covering. Okay, here we go. Like, do you have any idea how much Disaster P, like Zero Hedge and Doomberg pumped out when this thing was going lower. Zero Hedge really more reporting on all the negativity that was occurring in stocks. And as soon as the Orange Man's approval rating went down, magically all the tariff deals got done. Chinese didn't want the Hong Kong dollar to crater. Poof. Then Trump gets on a plane, which presidents normally do when they have domestic trouble, and do photo ops where he's like doing deals with everybody. He's like, hey, who's got money? Let's do a deal with them. Okay, who doesn't have money? Oh, we're sanctioning this country. Let's stop that. Let's do business with everybody. This mentality hopefully comes to Bitcoin one day. Now, again, this was a measure of panic, right? It's like a fear metric in low quality bonds. Everybody afraid, everybody unafraid. They just unwound it in a matter of days. And it's amazing how Bitcoin followed that, right? As soon as this absurd fear trade in legacy stopped, this is very important. We had a viewer bring up others like Total 3. Altcoins took off. Now, the market's eventually going to sort out which altcoins are better than other altcoins. Naturally, you want to visit the YouTube member area, right? And then you want to visit the new platinum tier in Patreon to get the laser focus which altcoins are doing better. Less fear in equities means we can start trading Web3. Notice I used the word start because we haven't traded Web3 at all. At all. We did memes, and memes are coming back too, but we haven't traded Web3. And if you think we don't need Web3, please think again. Now, we are citing charts on tariffs going back to the 1800s to forecast the next recession, literally referencing a time before light bulbs to explain an app-based AI-powered economy. That's not analysis, that's nostalgia. This is called, and this is what this guy, because I used to work with him, it's called recession obsession, right? Everybody wants to make the big call. Okay, here comes the recession. I called it. Look, first of all, the definition of recession, as he stated, is outdated. Second of all, anybody who's been to the grocery store over the last 2 years has watched everything at Costco 5X, and nobody can get a job unless you are getting a government job, and even that is over. So we're at the end of one, not a beginning of one, per Toby Ward in the YouTube member area. Now, what your job is in crypto, and I have said this every day, and I will continue to say it, your job, Toby's job, my job, everyone's job in these member areas and on this stream is to figure out how to get you involved in the AI crypto economy, which is not in a recession. It's just starting to grow. And in fact, it's coming out of a low growth period. How do you get on the prosperity trade, which again is another concept of this thought leader, which we are all over on, trying to find, not trying, finding the coins that matter. That's what we do. We find the coins that matter so you can get on the AI trade, so you can get prosperous as soon as possible, right? Not talking about a recession, right? You don't need to talk about a recession. You talk about bad stuff, all you get's bad stuff, right? I saw some Instagram thing, losers are people who aren't prosperous. They talk about the past, like the past definition of recessions. We want to talk about what's going on now, and we want to talk about what's going to happen in the future so we can just flat out win. This is about winning. YouTube membership, Patreon, win, win, win. Or as one famous football personality said, just win, baby. Cantor equity partner discloses $458 million Bitcoin acquisition. Notice on Doomberg, little currency devaluation, a little dollar devaluation coming in Korea, along with Taiwan. Dollar lower, Bitcoin up. But you notice on Doomberg, oh, gee, guys, what happened to all those tariff end of the world headlines? Gone. If anything, weaker dollar, they're going to do these trade deals by making currency deals, which is constructive for Bitcoin. Meanwhile, back at the mergers and acquisition ranch, or the IPO ranch, Welcome to old-fashioned 80s Gordon Gekko Wall Street, if anybody remembers that movie, right? Go public and buy other companies, right? eToro, because Gen Z is not doing business at some stodgy investment bank. They're not. Orange Man says, I'm a big crypto fan. I would hope so, bro, right? You're running it like what I would call a family, right? You're involved. You know, you're selling meme coins. Your wife's selling meme coins. Your kids are buying miners. Your kids have executive clubs. You have like kind of a hedge fund where, you know, people, we don't know this, people probably pay to have their coin purchased by that hedge fund. That's what I think. They're making money. They're making $1 billion a month so far. Not all that's crypto, but I don't see why that would not continue. Keep in mind, this guy got a $400 million judgment for doing nothing wrong not too long ago. So they're going to make money every way they can. Okay, there is no more Bitcoin. There is no more Bitcoin. No more Bitcoin left on exchanges, and miners aren't selling. We'll go over that later. They're not selling. Like, this is a form of money that people now have to have. So you have to have dollar, Swiss franc, yen, sterling, and the euro. Now you have to have Bitcoin, and I think you're going to wind up adding ETH, Solana, and XRP. This stream is about Solana and XRP following ETH. Like Sui went, ETH followed Sui, and when Solana and XRP are done correcting, this whole supply shock thing not only will apply to Bitcoin, but I don't think there's enough supply in, well, you know, I don't think there's enough motivated sellers. Let's do it that way. In Bitcoin, there's no supply. I don't know if you have motivated sellers in XRP or Solana. As a matter of fact, I know you don't, because they're going to want Solana for meme summer. They're going to want Solana for stable coins, right? And there's just going to be more buyers and sellers in both of those coins. And both of those coins really haven't moved on this up move. They haven't moved on this up move. They just haven't. So that leaves them to go, shroop, next time they're going to do this up move. Now, again, the good news is they're down. Like Solana actually has topping signals. So when Solana has topping signals, that means you might have 2 or 3 days to figure out technical levels to get involved. Alarm bells ringing in US, right? Skynet. You know what? They're going to do crypto. They're going to do stable coins. You have to do it. Your sovereignty matters. It does. Even if you think it doesn't, it does. 250K Bitcoin is best case. Solana and Hype tipped for gains. It's amazing how 250K Bitcoin comes back. Nobody was talking about 250K Bitcoin except Toby Ward and the Ninjas over in the YouTube member area. Bitcoin remains unmatched as a global inflation hedge. Actually, let me make a correction to that. Bitcoin is not an inflation hedge. Bitcoin is a hedge against massive, unrelenting government spending. We'll go over this later when we talk about the bond market and gold briefly. The simple fact of the matter is nobody in Washington wants to cut spending. And the only way that's not going to result in disaster is if the Fed expands the balance sheet and absorb the treasuries. Because for whatever reason, probably because, you know, various interests got to Congress, the whole idea of having stablecoin countries absorb treasury supply, they turn that down. They turn that down. So who's going to buy treasuries? The only answer to that is the Fed. That's the only answer. Like when Powell is done, or before that, they're going to buy the Fed. If Powell won't do it, Bessent will. They can do Treasury QE. Meanwhile, in Paris, attempted kidnapping of a woman and her 2-year-old child, right, on the streets of Paris. The target is allegedly the daughter of a crypto CEO. Wild stuff. You know, every day we have one of these, and of course, it's probably not representative of like day-to-day life. But again, if they don't like you, like the more times they do this and get away with it, like there's no outrage about this stuff. There's no outrage about AI being quasi-sentient. There's no outrage about the speed that those guys are moving. There's no outrage that if you have a political party that's the opposition, your intelligence services are bugging them, right? Don't believe me? Here it is. Germany's spy agency walks back extremist label for their version of Republicans. The domestic intelligence agency steps back just days after making the explosive claim. So they can walk back whatever they want to walk back in terms of like public statements. But in terms of what the guys are doing on the inside and who the senior bureaucrats are taking orders from, you know, just like, you know, Barack, like Hope and Change was bugging the orange man. This doesn't stop. This eventually applies to you with AI. Now, again, do we need to focus on this? No. Do we need to know about it? Yes, which is why, again, you know, when we're piling in to, you know, YouTube member area, Patreon, whatever, we are trying to get you guys ready now, right? Now is when you trade this because, you know, your kids are going to look at you and go, hey, what were you doing back in the day, back in 2025 when all this stuff was at zero? When, you know, altcoin market cap outside the top 10 was 280 million. Now, I don't think your kids are going to be looking at the market cap, but, you know, they're going to ask you, what were you doing before the days when we needed crypto? Just like people ask me occasionally, what was it like to be at Wall Street before the internet and personal computers? You know, I mean, that's a funny curiosity, but you don't want to answer the question of, well, you know, I thought Bitcoin was too expensive at 105, or I wasn't interested in ETH at 2000, or I did buy XRP at $2 when it's now at, I don't know. We have a 7-page term paper and a bottom line about a price target in XRP in the new VIP area. I was going to put it on YouTube, but I'm like, no, I think, I think, you know, the idea of XRP at 2 something being ridiculously cheap. Like, what's the theme of the stream, right? Solana and XRP left. So here it is. XRP at $2 and something is absurdly cheap. At 55 cents, it was like in the dumpster for no reason, which is why it went up 400%. And again, Solana and opening up the casino because, and it's not just the casino. Remember, okay, let's come off this. Okay. Anthropic accused of citing AI hallucination in song lyrics. So AI borrowing everyone's work without paying. And I'm like, well, you know, if they release it out on the internet, I say let the models use it. You know what I'm saying? Like, models have to learn from something. You better off have them learning from public information than having them tell the AI what to actually do, right? Okay, Solana, going back to GAN. So in 2018, you had a monster top and an epic down move where the entire altcoin space essentially went to zero, to the point where we're sitting around in 2019, even headed into 2020, going, altcoins will never go up again. I was working for an altcoin company at the time. This will never go up again. That's how destroyed the market was back in 2018. So GAN works on 7-year cycles. So 2018, boom, downside. 2025, history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. In the case of GAN, you had a monster down move. 7 years later, you have a monster up move. Monster, right? You know, and again, you don't know how it's going to look, but like, you know, Toby on the member stream yesterday, I'll give you a hint. You know, she had a big AI coin, Virtuals. I'm not going to tell you what she said about the upside target, but needless to say, the AI trade hasn't even started. Okay, AIntivirus. Hanging tough at 6 cents. Still believe we can do a dime on a line, right? A dime on the line. Because they got AI and privacy. And every day I make the case for AI and privacy. You got to get decentralized. And McAfee, the talking AI agent, right? The dead man come back to life. I don't know who pushes back against these companies building Skynet and these CEOs. Who's going to push back? Not the government, right? Not the small guy. What are you going to do? Delete all their apps? No. Right. No, you need this guy telling you about your sovereignty on social media, and then you need him walking around as a robot, and it has a 6 million market cap. Now, just in case you don't think, you don't think that you need privacy or that, Uncle Sugar won't come down on you, right? Ross Ulbright, who, got in some serious trouble for, opening up essentially, a Bitcoin-based eBay, which was used by bad guys, went to jail for a very long time, now has a collection of the paintings he made, along with, you can own his prison sweatsuit. Prison ID card, 0.057 Bitcoin. Okay? You don't want this to be you. You don't, right? And if they're going to pardon this guy, supposedly CZ is at the top of the list, and I would hope they get to Charlie Shrem, because Charlie Shrem just got in trouble for selling Bitcoin to people who were using Bitcoin on Ross's platform. Charlie Shrem opened up like a Bitcoin office in New York City where people could come in, trade, and watch Bitcoin like old-fashioned Wall Street, right? And he went to jail along with Ross, right? Not tried at the same time, but come on, man. You don't ever want this to happen to you. You want some privacy. Antivirus has privacy tools, email, right? Mixers where, prying eyes can't see every freaking thing you do. Prying eyes is then, like Skynet. Decoupling again, Bitcoin retains and gains as gold gets smacked. Now let's be a little careful with this, just a little, right? We like the fact that it's correcting. Don't sit around and go, oh yeah, Bitcoin's outperforming, and it'll outperform forever. Let me tell you something, folks. Nothing outperforms forever. Nothing. So if Bitcoin's outperforming, great. But gold going down is not exactly exciting for Bitcoin. And gold is going down because bonds are getting smacked and interest rates are going up again because there's no bid for our treasury market and tech stocks are back. So the bond market is looking at this and going, well, they're not going to stop spending. I want out. Now, the good news is that's going to give you a correction in Bitcoin. If gold is correcting, you will eventually, over the next 3 days, get a correction probably in XRP, Solana, and Bitcoin. XRP and Bitcoin may go sideways. So could Solana. But again, once they work off what I call, once they work off the overbought condition, that could take 2 days, right? Once they do that, it could go up only. ETH did it. Everyone still hates ETH, right? So can you imagine what they could do in the coins that they actually like, right? Government not doing Solana ETF. Everybody thinks Solana and XRP should be ETFs. That probably would be a good idea. They're probably not doing it. They're not doing it because the ETH ETF kind of was a disaster. And they're just in the mood to let people do things. And, they're on vacation. Like if you work for a law enforcement agency regarding crypto, they unwound everything and they just want to go play golf. They're done, right? It's like, hey, you guys are on your own. We gave you everything we gave you. Solana and XRP are eventually next after they go much higher, right? Like with Bitcoin, the talk of an ETF triggered a very big rally from 16K to like 35K. You got a 1X in Bitcoin on talk of an ETF. Talk on an ETF sometimes can be more bullish than an ETF itself, right? That's how I'm thinking about it. Bitcoin miners halt sales as BTC gains 20% since hash ribbon buy signal. Okay. Now, here's what people are not asking, right? Here's what people are not asking. So, you have Bitcoin miners selling, right? Bitcoin balance in miner wallets. So whatever Bitcoin they've already sold. That's probably where Michael Saylor has gotten all his Bitcoin from, right? Now, what are the other reasons to stop selling Bitcoin? Because you want to have Bitcoin on your balance sheet so you can get taken over, right? They sell what they have to sell. They fund their operations, and then they just hold on to Bitcoin, knowing full well that one day someone comes in and acquires the company. They're going to get acquired. And that is not priced into the stock. Neither is 120 or 200K Bitcoin. Everybody thinks, oh my God, Bitcoin is going massively higher. Coinbase hasn't even gotten back to its recent high. Never mind its all-time high at 400. It's not even close. No one's interested. Everyone's like, oh, let's go buy Web 2. There's a lot of exciting new things going on there. Not. Asia's wealthy shifting from US dollar to crypto and gold. How? They must watch the show, right? I mean, it's a no-brainer. You got to have 50 equities, 30 Bitcoin, and 20 other per my guy, Jordy. And he was saying that, and everyone laughed at him. He was saying that like a year and a half ago. They got to allocate the Bitcoin, right? These wealth managers like, oh, let's do 60 stocks, 40 bonds. That hasn't worked in 2 years. And that's that's probably going to wind up a losing strategy as crypto goes up 500%. So the sooner they get on board, the better. Okay. Now, Mike is back with an AMA because Galaxy Digital, his hedge fund, is going public. This could be the biggest story. This could be the biggest story of at least the first half of the year, right? This is a crypto hedge fund. Mike got rid of his Bitcoin miner for diversification reasons, right? Turned it into an AI data center. They're going to do this IPO probably in like 3 days. That's why if you get a correction in Bitcoin or you get a correction in Solana, or just a sideways red day, if this thing on Nasdaq is gangbusters, right? And again, the reason it wasn't public, right? They had to go public a long time ago in Canada, of all places, because obviously they wouldn't let a crypto company go public here. Now, again, SEC doesn't mind someone going public. Matter of fact, they probably want that. This thing is gangbusters. If this is like, because what happens is it's like an auction. The thing goes IPO, salespeople try to figure out where people will buy it. Sometimes they have an estimate. And if people really FOMO in and they're able to sell the stock or IPO at a higher price, like eToro, right? They say, okay, well, we'll sell some stock at, I don't know, whatever the price is. Then if people come in and go, oh, wow, it's gone at that price, I'll pay this price. And then when it hits the market, if they don't get what they need, they buy it at the market when it comes out. So we're waiting to see how that goes, obviously. But if it's gangbusters, it's a crypto catalyst that no one's paying attention to, which is why I want to get involved on red days. Red days, red days, red days. Red days are your friend. Ethereum retakes 10% market share, but ETH bulls shouldn't celebrate. In other words, please stay bearish. And I think the same thing. Please stay bearish so ETH can go to 3,500. And if ETH doesn't go to 3,500, the bid is going to move to Solana and XRP. I think ETH can still do better, longer term, like, fall, which is something that, Toby in the YouTube member area is like been pounding the table on all year. In the meantime, back at the Solana and XRP ranch, we have shocking upside targets for the near term. And you should go check that out. Solana and XRP are next. And you don't know if the catalyst is a Bitcoin supply shock or everybody ripping that Galaxy IPO off the shelf. TradFi is the most ripe for disruption in equities because you can have instant settlement in real world assets. And as BlackRock doesn't tell you, you can access capital markets without going through banks. Bitcoin breakout to 120 on the radar. Gee, they must watch the show. They must watch the show, right? First, it's going to, it's crypto winter, and now it's going to 120. Now, of course, they don't talk about how it gets there. Okay, it's just called escape velocity. I also think this applies ironically in antivirus, right? Eventually, certain cryptos get to a point where they run out of sellers. Obviously, we've detailed that in Bitcoin. Now, they either run out of sellers or they run into anybody willing to sell, which I think could be the case in Bitcoin, Solana, and XRP. People are just like, yeah, I'm not selling this because, the real price is materially higher. Materially higher. Shocking in XRP per this piece yesterday. Shocking, right? We have two reports, right? We have the model, the GAN model, and, ace analyst Toby Ward going, yo, bro, much higher. Okay, Lyft taps Solana Hive Mapper. It's a big coin of my old boss. They start building things on Solana like stablecoin networks, real world assets, the Solana phone. They start building on this thing. Watch out. Watch out. And this meme coin thing is coming back too, right? Bitcoin, one of the theories that Toby has is when Bitcoin gets boring, they open up the casino. I don't think that's priced into the market right now. And if they sell Solana over the next 3 days, be there. $1 billion Bitcoin exists Coinbase in a day. One exits Coinbase in a day, right? Miners have sold it out. It's gone on exchanges. Who's the seller? Bitcoin miners and China. And I don't know why China would sell, because they need appreciating assets on their book. Now, maybe they need dollars, but why would they sell? Why would they? Right? They've been getting all this Bitcoin most likely from miners who have sold to fund their operations. So if their operations are funded, right, why there's nowhere for these guys like Michael Saylor to get Bitcoin. And then all the corporations have to get Bitcoin. I debated whether the stream should be like corporations buy all the Bitcoin or Solana and XRP next. Probably could have gotten more SEO out of corporations buy all the supply, but I think the recommendation that helps you is that these big altcoins are next. SUI, ETH, followed by XRP and Solana, and possibly followed by, either Cardano or the big AI coins. Big AI coins like Fetch and Tau, right? Artificial super intelligence token, they can go parabolic because it's so mispriced. 100,000 Bitcoin has moved off exchanges just in the last 3 weeks alone. CFTC chairman going to the private sector to work in crypto. If you weren't anti-crypto, you're very marketable. I like this. 500K Bitcoin would seal it. Sarmucci says crypto is on the cusp of becoming an asset class. This is at Consensus in Toronto. See, folks, again, 500K, 750K, a million, even to a certain degree, 250K is now like the new number. They keep moving the number down, right? Like I'll say a million, I'll say 750, I'll say 500 because I don't have to worry about any tactical shakeouts. What about 120 and 140 and how soon can we get there? Again, you want to hear what Toby has to say about it, but no one's talking about that. Like everyone's like, well, there's going to be a supply shock. Okay, dude, where's it going? And then what altcoins follow? See, that's the thing that no one's talking about, right? Back in the day, right, when Bitcoin would stop going up, right, altcoins would go. The wealth effect from Bitcoin led to, ICOs. Now it's even better. The wealth effect from Bitcoin gets people into Web3, and nobody thinks they have to do Web3, which makes it all the more important for you to do it. Because no matter how many scary headlines you come up with, the bond market, this, that, who cares, right? Your kids aren't going to ask you, Dad, what did you do when the Treasury basis trade blew up in March of 2025? No, they're not. They're going to say, did you buy the robotics stock? Did you buy decentralized AI? Did you buy DPIN? Did you buy privacy, right? Hey, Dad, tell me about the days when privacy was super cheap and no one think they needed it. I mean, you can talk about, hey, me and the Eagle King before the show, we can sit around and talk about what wireless microphone gives me the best sound on short videos. Okay, how much you want to bet I'm going to see nothing but those ads for the next week and a half? And everyone's okay with that. And I guess there's nothing wrong with it until an intelligence service starts doing it, right? And you don't have to think about that. You just have to think about how can I, as BitBoy used to say, how can I get that money? How can I get that money when this trade happens? If robots are, I've seen some guy go up to 50 trillion. If you're going to have between 10 and $50 trillion market cap for robots, where's crypto going to be? Get after it. Okay. So, Omar, my guy, right? Very smart dude. When it comes to basic crypto TA, right? A positive shift in the MACD histogram, right? Momentum switching from bearish to bullish. Now, again, our idea with our products, right, is to get you on this before all the quant signals hit. So we have a bullish signal, and frequently after you get a bullish signal, what do you get? Ironically, a correction. Like all these moving average crossovers, like the golden cross, even the death cross. As soon as you get the signal, what happens? It goes in the other direction for maybe a day or 3 days or whatever. And that's great because you know what? That's exactly what you want, right? Everyone's like, oh, red days, I don't want to talk about it. I want it to go up only. I want 2021. Now, you may get 2021 at some point, but then again, maybe not. It can just go like slowly, gradually, then suddenly. So it's all flipping bullish. And what are you doing on a red day? Now, we know you're here. And of course, naturally, we appreciate the fact that you're here, right? Of course we do, right? We appreciate the fact that you're here, but what are you doing when it's down? Spending is the problem. For 2 decades, federal spending has averaged 20% of GDP. During cough, cold, and flu, it went to 30% because they were handing out money. Now it's 23%. If we cut taxes without cutting spending, American productivity will be consumed by debt. Social media analysis of Bitcoin, right? Susquehanna, a major hedge fund, buys 291 million through the Bitcoin ETF. I've often said that there's no actual use case for Bitcoin. It turns out I was wrong, right? Somebody found a reason to own Bitcoin. He bought it to hedge his short position in MicroStrategy. Celer has ironically created a use case for Bitcoin, just not the use case he had in mind. Okay, what did he just say? So the purpose of Bitcoin is to short it. Is to be long it against a short in MicroStrategy. So in equities, the fancy thing to do is to be long short, is to be long something and short something at the same time, right? So they are all short MicroStrategy, long Bitcoin, figuring MicroStrategy is worth 2 times as much as the Bitcoin that they hold. And that's going to unwind, and Michael Saylor is going to get liquidated, and everything's going to blow up, and blah, 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 negative, negative, negative. When they are missing the point that no corporation could do what he's done. Like he has got so much Bitcoin that nobody could ever get that much Bitcoin once the supply shock hits. It's a company, it's a computer company that's a hedge fund, and he's going to acquire Bitcoin to the point where nobody can beat him. And I don't understand why everyone thinks NVIDIA and all these tech companies can trade at these huge valuations and MicroStrategy is not included in that. Like they have the best money in the world. They have code that can't be replicated. You can't say Web 2 has code that can't be replicated by a chatbot. Again, as Jordy Visser says, code is no longer scarce. You can generate all the code you want. Remember all this BS 3 years ago? Oh, learn the code. Yeah, go to coding camp. Teach kids to code. Yeah. Teach kids to type a prompt into a chatbot and do like a year's worth of coding in an hour. Michael Saylor has code you can't replicate. You can't. Launchcoin, Solana, and are trending on CoinGecko today. Okay. Are you keeping an eye on LaunchCoin? They are going, when these AI agents get going, I don't exactly know how it's going to look, but either the AI trade, AI agents launching coins, they're all going to do it on Solana. So let them hit it. Let them hit it. Here it is. I knew I had this. So the guy from NVIDIA says robots are worth 50 trillion. Elon said 10 trillion. It's worth a lot, right? We want the factories over here because we want our robots in the factory, not some other country's robots. Robots are inevitable. They're doing it. Okay. The question is, how are you going to make money off of it? Where were you when the robot trade started? Binance CEO is now at the top of the Orange Man's pardon list for this year, 39% chance of a pardon. Okay, I notice we have Roger Ver at 10%. Might be hard to see. Let me see if I can get it. Okay, yeah. So Roger Ver, 10% chance. Okay. CZ, 40% chance. Rudy Giuliani, 8%. Edward Snowden, 7%. Elon Musk got in trouble for securities issue. Notice Charlie Shrem is not even on the list. That's BS. Solana has generated more 24-hour network revenue than all other L1 and L2 chains combined. Right. Now, I know trading isn't free, so you have a lot of people regularly selling Solana. You had a wake-up rally out of nowhere in SUI, a wake-up rally out of nowhere in ETH, and you're going to have a wake-up rally out of nowhere in Solana and XRP. And everyone's going to wonder why on these down days they were sitting around going, I don't want to talk about it because it's down. You want to talk about it when it's down, right? Lemon Drop has officially unlocked for all Phantom users, right? Every on-chain trader can download the Lemon Drop extension. And I think this means it can buy Bitcoin. Stack Bitcoin at the speed of Solana. Again, the supply shock, right? You know, once everyone figures out that being above 100K, like that big hedge fund that's been accumulating the Bitcoin ETF, the Bitcoin ETF trades at like $60 a share. No one cares about the price of Bitcoin over in Legacy. They just are like, you know what? We need to buy the Bitcoin ETF, period. End of story. Okay, Solana. So we'll go over to DeMark work in Solana. Okay, we'll do that as well. But keep in mind, so Solana breaks out of an alligator mouth formation on LuxAlgo, right? Again, LuxAlgo, I undersell it. Okay. So LuxAlgo inserts support underneath Solana. So yeah, okay. Solana goes down. That's nice, right? That's great. Right. They say Solana really has gone nowhere. If you think about what it's done, what everything else, what Bitcoin has done. Right. So if you have this, excuse me, what you have this alligator mouth thing, right? So what happens is the best case scenario when you leave an alligator mouth, which you have, the target is the width of the alligator mouth from the point of the breakout, which in Solana is at 229. From 180 to 229, and everybody's going to sell it. And if you look closely at this, you can see that Solana may be retesting the 200-day moving average, maybe in a worst case scenario. The bottom of the support zone is 167. Go ahead and hit it, boys. Go ahead and hit it. Right? What's going to happen when this thing goes to 239? Wait, I can answer that question. I can answer this question. So when Solana went down, right? When it went down that looks like a 69-degree angle. It went straight down is the point. Straight down, right? This is the Orange Man, I don't know, like crazy banana pants tweet that today is a good day to buy my stock. Notice Solana is hanging out above that level. So it went straight down. Speed, magnitude, and direction. High school physics. What goes down a certain way goes right back up the same way. or the bigger the base, the higher in the space. And then this is what Solana has been doing and what everything has been doing, these rounding bottoms. No one is talking about this. Who's talking about this, right? XRP, there isn't a lot of technical analysis required in XRP. There really isn't. Why? Because it's just strong like bull. It doesn't move, right? Like, you know, you break out of a triangle, you know, you have some kind of a base forming here, right? Or a head and shoulders bottom, either way. XRP is like just starting to break out now. And realistically, you know, there's no reason why you can't have XRP at like 310. XRP can go up $1, right? Or 50 cents. You know, it's trading at 256 and it can easily go to say 3 even. Where's the rest of the market going to be if XRP hits 3? And what's the media going to look like if XRP hits 3? Right? Even if XRP has to take a while to consolidate below before it blows through, and where it's going to blow through to, you can check out the YouTube member area or the Patreon Platinum to check that out. But needless to say, right? Say if you go to like, I don't know, maybe if you go to a monthly chart in XRP, right? You have like the Fib circle analysis hitting Gann analysis at 3.15. And you have the premium zone at 350 on a monthly chart. So why can't this go up again? Most importantly, and just in case you're thinking, well, you know, that's not that exciting. What happens if it goes up on a rope, right? You know, AIntivirus, you know, get to a dime on a line. What happens if they get done correcting this thing like XRP right here? So here's your rounding bottom. Here's your 13 bottom in XRP, straight up. So again, you've got coins reacting to bullish formations, basic stuff. DeMark 13, alligator mouth, triangles, downward sloping wedge, head and shoulders, teacup and handle. You know, like that sounds like a lot, but that's technical analysis textbook. I would imagine they would cover all that in the first 50 pages, if that. XRP above support. The thing about DeMark that's cool is it draws support you may not necessarily see, just like LuxAlgo draws triangles and things like that with the premium discount zone along with it that normally you just can't see. Right? So like we talked about upside targets. What's up here, man? Where's the DeMark on the daily chart? Like, where is it? It's not there in XRP. Like you look at the weekly chart. Here's what's funny. So this up move didn't start the DeMark trend count. This up move was just an adjustment where everyone was like, okay, well, this is too cheap. Whew. Now, you look at XRP on a weekly basis, this number 4 is where you should get a dip, right? It'll go 1 through 9, chill, and then probably go up, I don't know, 12 more weeks. I mean, that's just assuming that XRP does what our group thinks it can do. But when you get a trend starts and you get to the 4th bar, that's where you should get the dip. The definition of a dip is a pause. So if they smack XRP $3 or Solana goes down, good. Good. That's exactly what's supposed to happen. Meanwhile, you know, like I said, there's nothing to stop this thing. Nothing. Yeah, maybe $3 has resistance, but if XRP goes to $3.50, where's the rest of the market? Right? I continue to believe that if the Galaxy, and I'm just adding to this, if the Galaxy Digital IPO is gangbusters, okay, strategy or micro strategy, what did I do here? I don't know what I did here. Strategy or micro strategy can go up a lot. I messed up the chart. Okay, let's go to PowerPoint. Got some important stuff to talk about. Again, the juicy correction could be on the way. All right. Could be. Okay. So in the Patreon area, we have the new platinum tier, just so you know. So we're consolidating our reports. If you're a busy person and you only want to know what's 1 coin or 3 coins give me an executive summary and I'll read the big report later. Okay. That's what we're doing with the platinum tier because we overwhelmed people in the store. So everything that would normally go in the store, you click this button, membership, and you get busy. 10-year note yields, the bond market, right? So you have a breakout in interest rates at the apex of a triangle. Yikes, right? So there's no apocalypse. It's not the end of the world. Stocks go up, crypto goes up, bond market goes, well, you know, nobody wants to buy the bonds because there's no disaster. So, and they're not going to stop spending. So we're just going to sell this and rates are going to go up. And Besson is going to have to do QE to stop it. Now, nobody thinks this affects Bitcoin right now. You know, you got to be careful of that. You have a treasury market problem. Again, you could get a correction. So much the better. So much the better. Everybody's crowing about Bitcoin outperformance, and that's true. I get it. But, you know, if something happens and you get that sudden dip, that's your dip. That's your dip, right? And they might give you one in the bond market. 6% deficits as far as the eye can see. Zero deficit cutting after the hoo-ha, says my friend Andy. Something is going to break, and Bitcoin is your safe word. And that's true. That is very true. But again, once something kind of happens in the bond market, that's when Besant has to come in. Powell should come in too. Gold getting smacked. Why? Well, the world didn't end, but the real reason is because interest rates are going up. Gold is very sensitive to interest rates. So, is this good for Bitcoin? It'll give you a correction. It'll give you a pause. It'll give you a time to get some research. We would love it if you got our research, but you get research, get a chart, artificial super. I mean, Toby figured out how to explain artificial intelligence token, FET, to one of her girlfriends at a tea party, right? Because, you know, Toby's an analyst and everyone looks at Toby and goes, really? You're an analyst? Really? You have a crypto podcast? Huh? How can I get involved? I'll figure it out. Okay. Pick one, pick something big, get started. Seriously. Right. And if you're in, figure out how to get more in. Okay. When they smack gold and no one wants gold, that's crypto, right? In the meantime, the fear of interest rates, right, means a possible dip in crypto and then crypto going up only because this is hard to see. But again, Andy plots the Fed balance sheet. So after cough, cold, and flu, the Fed prints massively, right? Because when the Fed prints, it buys bonds with the printed money and puts it on its balance sheet. So the Fed prints after cough, cold, and flu. Then with inflation already rampaging, they go, gee, inflation's not transitory. Then they start hiking rates massively and they let the balance sheet shrink. So they stop printing and whatever bonds that they have mature, they just let them mature. And the balance sheet falls, which means less printing. So the implication here is that this might make a U bottom, that Powell can't do this anymore. He's in enough hot water with the orange man. And you know what? If Powell doesn't do it, Besant can do Treasury QE. I'll spare you the lecture. The balance sheet has nowhere to go but up because no one is going to buy our bonds, right? The orange man wants to make deals. He wants tax cuts, the big, beautiful bill. Yeah, okay, bond market traders hear that, and they're like, oh my God, I'm getting out. Somebody else can buy this stuff, right? And again, what's the safe word? Bitcoin. And if you have profits from Bitcoin, altcoins follow a la 2017 and 2018. 7 years ago, right? You had the crash. Now you're going to have up only, right? It is absolutely, okay. Ryan became a VIP all access member. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. We appreciate that. Member request for Celer and FLOW. Okay. Okay, let's go to FLOW over here. I want to say FLOW was like the original NFT play. So again, with all of these coins, they go up, they break out of some kind of LuxAlgo formation. I mean, literally, this looks just like Solana, right? comes back down. You know, Toby is like, hi, I'm here from 2050 BTFD. That's flow. Then I don't know if I have the right. Celer, which is on Coinbase, it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing. It's a very similar formation. In this case, it was a downward sloping wedge. And I don't want to bore everybody, but I've been through a couple of bull market bottoms, right? I saw 2020, and, you know, that's when me and my boss were on a live stream on Sunday, pounding the table when ETH was at 300, that ETH was going massively higher because of the bigger the base, the higher in the space. And every single one of these charts, I don't want to say they're all the same. They're not all the same. But when you look at this stuff, it's like, okay, right? It's broken out, and you can't start this nonsense where you missed anything. Now, I think if you don't, baby whale buying Popcat and Compound, rock on, man. Rock on. You know, just like, you know, that's baby whale going, hey, you know what? I'm going to pick one. I'm going to pick two. You know, we're going to help you pick one or pick two and go for it. You know, I'm not familiar with the fundamentals of Celer, right? But I do know that if it takes out its 200-day moving average, right? Again, look at the angle of descent here. Straight down, right? Just straight down, right? What happens when, you know, Celer goes back to, you know, something like, I don't know, 2 cents? What happens? What happens when everyone goes, you know, and then, you know, most likely you adjust your portfolio at that time, or you adjust it now. But, you know, when they blow through the 200-day moving average, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of this stuff, it's not terrible, but it looks the same. And that means when it all goes, it's all going to go at once. Now, I know this is unbelievable, but if you look at memes, right? Notice memes go up, and what happens? Bag holders get out. Because you have serious bag holders in this stuff. But what's Popcat doing? Popcat is retesting the 200-day moving average, probably after excessive money flow. So everybody FOMO'd in, and then they drop it, which is typical in bull markets, right? You know, no one believes it. No one believes it. Like, who was looking to buy Popcat on April 8th during crypto winter? Who was doing that? Nobody. And then everybody FOMOs in after the 200-day moving average, and then they drop it. And everybody goes out, and no one's interested, and bag holders sell. I mean, you do have chunky resistance here, right? This is where, like, the give up trade really started from, because that's when it went down and stayed down. So I get it, right? I mean, if you didn't like your Popcat position, or you were long from way above, and you were like, okay, I got a rally, I'm going to get out, but retail always sells the first uptick, right? Retail always sells the first uptick. Okay, MOG. Again, everything retesting the 200-day moving average and LuxAlgo support. They're handing it to you. I mean, there's a pattern here. Litecoin, same thing. Like we had some characters yesterday declaring, I think I did yesterday was the end of Bitcoin Cash. Okay, look at this. GRASS. So as I understand it, this is AI for normies on Coinbase. Up 15% today. This AI trade, you know, Ansem said this, who's like the meme coin guy. When you have the AI trade this time in crypto, it's going to be for real. And they're smacking, like this AI list that I have, they're smacking everything today. Everything. Right? And that includes like PAL and NEAR. Those are the ones we like to talk about the most. Okay. Listen to me. Please listen to me. Find some research. We have a $25 plan. We have an $88 plan for executives that's brand new. All of our reports, all of the concise research goes in that tier. Okay. So, you know, if you want to shop in the store a la carte, you can. You can. Or, right? Whoops. All right, I messed it up. You can shop in this executive tier where you get things in a consolidated way. And in the $25 plan, you get, and a lot of people are already here, you get a bunch of cool charts. Solana on fire, the case for Solana made with a chart software that I had when I was at Goldman. And this is the platinum stuff. 3 coins plus 3 spec coins, courtesy of our GAN model. Okay. DeFi AI, narrowed that down to like 2 or 3 coins. I think 2 coins actually, right? 2 small cap coins with very low market cap and XRP. Don't want to show that upside target. Don't want to scare you. If you want to get attention on YouTube, you go, XRP is going to $539. $589. I think that's the number. Some people have Twitter handles like XRP $589 or whatever it is. What about 23 from Ganwork? Think it's ridiculous? Guess what? It's not. It's not. Right? In other words, on down days, this is where you should be like, yeah, you know what? Much higher. What's the world going to look like with Bitcoin at 250? That's got to be Web3 and AI. Has to be. And sometimes it's hard to even find AI coins. You can go to CoinGecko, you can go to our areas, you can go to Banter Bubbles, but you got to figure out how to get involved in this. Like, my old boss of mine, he made his name with a spreadsheet where he could figure out which ICOs were next. He's still got something like that. You go wherever you got to go. Find some AI coins and get busy. Find some altcoins and get busy. If you don't know which ones, well, come see us. Or, I don't know, go to CoinGecko and see what they're talking about. Go to Lunar Crush. Go somewhere. Go somewhere. Don't sit around. Don't miss this. Don't have your kids telling you, hey, Dad, you should have been investing at these levels. That is the market update for today. We will see you tomorrow.